You won't believe what happened when a nosy HOA Karen decided my private farm road was her personal shortcut. She ignored signs, warnings, and even gates until I set up something that made her regret ever driving across my land again. Let's just say her tires didn't make it out alive. Before we begin, tell me which country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these wild HOA stories travel. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real-life property and HOA revenge stories just like this one. It all started in the quiet countryside, where wide fields stretched for miles and most people respected each other's land. The kind of place where neighbors waved from tractors and privacy still meant something. But not for the HOA down the road. Mark owned a 40-acre family farm just outside the boundary of a newly built subdivision, one of those uniform neighborhoods where every house looked identical and every blade of grass had to be exactly the same height. It was run by an overzealous HOA president named Karen, the self-appointed guardian of community standards. Karen hated that Mark's property wasn't under HOA control. From her porch, she could see the long gravel farm road cutting through his fields, a road that led to his barns and tractor sheds. She'd always made comments about how it would be more convenient if residents could use that road as a shortcut to the main highway. Mark politely declined the idea every time. His land wasn't part of their subdivision, and that road wasn't public. It was his private property, clearly marked with no trespassing and private road signs. But as the neighborhood grew, Karen got bolder. At first, it was small things. HOA residents occasionally took quick turns through his road when the main exit got busy. Then delivery trucks started cutting through too, kicking up dust and leaving tire ruts. Mark installed a chain gate at the entrance, thinking that would solve it. It didn't. Within days, someone had unhooked the chain. The gate was left wide open and tire marks cut deep into the dirt. Mark checked his trail camera footage and saw the culprit clear as day. Karen herself, driving her shiny silver SUV straight through the farm like she owned it. She didn't even slow down. That's when it became personal. Karen had been using his road daily, morning, afternoon, and evening. Her SUV's tracks were everywhere. Sometimes she even waved mockingly at the camera. When Mark confronted her one day at the property line, she dismissed him with that smug confidence that only an HOA president could have. She claimed she had permission from the community council, which didn't even have jurisdiction over his land. Mark tried everything by the book. He called local authorities, filed complaints, and even spoke with a county officer. But because the road wasn't fenced off, they said it was hard to enforce without physical barriers. That's when he decided to get creative. Mark knew that Karen loved control, but he also knew she hated consequences. So he came up with a plan that would make her think twice before trespassing again, one that was perfectly legal and absolutely effective. He started by reinforcing his old gate with heavy-duty steel posts sunk deep into concrete. Then, just behind it, about 10 feet in, he installed a set of retractable spike strips. Not the illegal kind you see on TV, but the kind used on private ranch roads to keep livestock safe and prevent unauthorized vehicles. They were pressure-based. Any car going forward without authorization would puncture its tires, but authorized vehicles could bypass them with a remote control system Mark installed. He added new warning signs too, just to cover himself legally. They read, "Private property, tire damage risk, no authorized vehicles." It was all completely above board. The next day, Karen drove through again, only this time the outcome was spectacular. Mark's cameras caught everything. Her SUV rolled up to the new gate, paused, then nudged it forward slightly, as if testing it. When she realized she could still fit through the side, she went for it. The moment her tires hit the spike strip, the sharp hiss of deflating air filled the quiet morning. Her car lurched forward, both front tires instantly shredded. She stopped in panic, stepped out, and stared at the ground like she couldn't believe what she'd just done. The camera footage showed her pacing, taking pictures, and calling someone on her phone, probably trying to figure out how to blame Mark. But she couldn't. The signs were there, the footage was clear, and the property line was unmistakable. Within minutes, a tow truck arrived to haul her deflated SUV off Mark's land. Word spread through the neighborhood faster than wildfire. The mighty HOA president had been stopped cold, literally. by the one man she'd been trying to boss around. A few days later, Mark received a letter from the HOA board demanding that he remove the dangerous devices. He smiled as he read it. The HOA had no authority over his farm, and he wasn't about to entertain their nonsense. He politely mailed back a copy of his property deed, a photo of the private property signs, and a note that simply said, "Stay off my land." From that day forward, no one from the HOA ever dared to cross his road again. The message had been received loud and clear. But the story didn't end there. Karen's SUV incident became legendary in the area. Residents whispered about it for months, joking that she'd finally met her match. The HOA board quietly voted to replace her as president at their next election, citing liability concerns and public embarrassment. She was furious, but there was nothing she could do. Mark, on the other hand, became somewhat of a local hero. Neighbors from nearby farms congratulated him for standing his ground. Even the county officer who had brushed him off earlier admitted that it was a clever solution. And while Mark never set out to humiliate anyone, he couldn't help but feel satisfied every time he drove past the new gate, the warning signs gleaming in the sunlight, and the spike strip just quietly resting beneath the gravel, just in case someone forgot the lesson. Months later, Karen sold her house and moved to another subdivision far away from Mark's farm. The new residents were respectful, friendly, and even asked Mark for advice about setting up a small garden by their fence line. Peace returned to the countryside, and the gravel road stayed quiet again, just the way Mark liked it.